and welcome to this episode of Conversation with a Chef. I'm Jo Ritty and I love sharing with you the conversations I get to have with talented and passionate chefs. It's the backstory, if you will, to the food they're putting up. I begin today by acknowledging the Wurundjeri and also the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation, traditional custodians of the lands and airwaves of Naarm and Geelong where this conversation takes place. Land which was never ceded. Land where communities came together to eat seasonally, locally and without exhausting resources. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and rising. Today is the first Conversation with a Chef for 2024. I drove to Geelong on a sunny day at the start of January to talk to Eddie Basich. We had a coffee at Pavilion Geelong and it was full summer carnival vibes. People were having picnics on the grassy slopes outside, the pool and the waterfront were packed, and there's a cruise ship out in the bay. Eddie is a private chef with 37 years experience cooking in hotel and restaurant kitchens here and in the UK. What he loves most about being a chef is the opportunity to teach people about food, younger chefs, but also the diners. He delights in watching people's faces when they taste his food. We talked perfect pomme purée, how to correctly season, and the importance of family and where your family's from. Food, glorious food is one of Eddie's mantras, and that really came through as we spoke. As well as his private chef gigs, Eddie's looking forward to more media and networking opportunities, and he is all about sharing his love and knowledge of food and cooking.
Hey, Joe.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you too. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Oh, good.
It's very summer carnival out there, isn't it?
Oh, it is. You're not wrong. Very much so.
Yeah.
I've been in town for a while, so
Yeah.
well, the weather has been fantastic.
No, it's been a crazy summer, hasn't it?
It's been nuts. Absolutely nuts.
But now it's like it's all gone into overdrive.
Well, I see there's a cruise liner in as well. It's really summery.
Yeah, well, we moved to Port Melbourne in July from Abbotsford, and so now we can see the cruise ships out the window. I've become like a train spotter for cruise ships. I'm just a bit really fascinated by them. I never thought I would be, but there you go. Yeah.
They're amazing. I've never been on one.
No.
I'm not really planning on going on. I always said if I ever did one, I'd do one of those European ones along the Danube.
Yeah.
I love the sea, but
Yeah.
so it's a bit more compact and personal.
Yeah.
Or the North Pole or something like one of those sort of things. But one of these sort of things, I've never really been interested. It's funny enough, I was looking at doing that many years ago. So I was in Bendigo and I was looking at coming back to Melbourne because I've got daughters. Anyway, they were little at the time and says, right, I've got to get back. But then I thought, I need to do something. I want to do something else. Because before I started doing my apprenticeship, I nearly joined the Navy.
Oh.
I've always been about boats and travel.
Oh, right.
So boats because my dad used to be a tuna fisherman in Port Lincoln.
Yes.
I was born in Port Lincoln.
I read that, yeah.
And so I've always loved boats and the ocean. And then I thought, what's a way of getting around, and maybe getting paid. So when I was about 17, I went to Defence Force in St Kilda Road and had an interview. And then they said, when you qualified though, when you finished your time, you weren't qualified. You were a cook.
Okay.
So, I want to be a chef, not just a cook.
Yes.
So that's where I said no. So I thought, I'll just work hard, finish my apprenticeship, and eventually I'll get over and I'll start travelling and doing what I want to do. So that's how that was. Nearly. Then I thought, a cruise liner. I had the interview. It was on Skype. It was for Royal Caribbean.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, they were based in Miami, and so Skype there, and then I got the executive chef of the whole group do an interview on the phone with me, and he threw a few things. How do you make this, or what are derivatives, or whatever, and basically I think I had to just do a medical eventually. It's one other thing I can't remember what it was, and nearly got this position. And then something came up in Melbourne, because I didn't really want to go away from the girls, but I wanted to, it was a sous chef, had my own cabin, Yeah, which was probably, I like my privacy, my own cabin. Yeah, hard work didn't bother me. Or So anyway, it came close. Back in, it was 2011.
Yeah, all right, okay.
Yeah, so quite a few years ago now.
It sort of fascinates me, that idea of maybe working on a cruise ship, or when I've spoken to chefs who work in hotels, like big hotels, and then they travel around the world to different hotels. It's a different, it's obviously a really different life to working in a restaurant and,
Well, it is. It was like with me, working in big hotels. A lot of mine was working in big hotels.
Was it? Okay,
Because when I started my apprenticeship, once I decided not to go into the Navy, I got a position. I did work. Thank you very much. Excellent, thank you. I got a position. No, I did work experience. Through high school for a week at a place called Hotel Australia, which is where Novotel on Collins is now.
Okay, yep.
In the city.
Yep.
And it was the old school 5-star hotel.
Yeah.
It was grand for a start.
Yeah.
And the kitchen, and then the exec chef, his name Michael Sharp, whether he's around or not anymore, I don't know. He took over. He went from executive chef to group, not exec chef, but sort of like more of a manager role.
Yeah.
So looking after setting up kitchens. Great, well groomed, lean man. But when I went in there, it's the black jacket, embroidery.
Oh yeah! Wow.
The neck chief, black pants.
Yeah.
And he was in the fishbowl. So I could see everything going on. That's who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And then eventually I got it. I went in there and the old school phones and rang up and I finally got that position and started my apprenticeship with it was called Hotel Australia through a company called Taverns Victoria, which I think was taken over by a guy called Bruce Matheson, who has the Pokies pubs.
Okay.
So, but basically they had a 5-star and a couple of those sort of hotels, but then they had all these sort of pubs. And that's where I sort of learnt the ropes. And then went from there back into the big hotel chains. One thing about those things is you can travel.
Yeah.
It makes life a little, if you want to travel, it makes life a little easier. I mean, I worked for a very short time with the executive chef of what used to be the Regent, now Sofitel, Wolfgang something or other, big Austrian guy, and he was a company man, so he went from, when this turned into Sofitel, he said, well, I'm sticking with, but he was a big hotel exec chef, that's what and he went to Berlin to work at the Regent in Berlin.
Okay.
So he followed that around. Quite a few chefs that I know are still in touch with that still sort of do that.
Yeah.
So it's quite fascinating.
It sounds like at 17 that's where you wanted to do your apprenticeship and to become a chef. So was that something that you, throughout your growing up, you always knew you wanted to be a chef?
I think what happened was I wasn't a big fan of school, and you could probably say I'll say a lot of chefs probably weren't. And one thing, as you said, you were talking about the French side of things, and I wish I'd stuck to that because I would have done a lot better in college. But my background is I was born in Port Lincoln, South Australia, so I'm first generation Australian. My mum was born in Serbia, but she's from a Slovak background, and my dad's old Yugoslavia. And dad's Bosnian. And mum's side of the family, all great cooks.
Wow.
And I've watched my grandma, when she came to Australia to live with my grandfather, baking those strudels, those poppy seed strudels you see in Ackland Street.
Yeah.
But these are bigger, not like they look like they're
Yeah.
No offence.
I love those poppy seed.
I love them all too.
And,
They used to do.
Not the Atkins Street ones. The ones that I had in Germany were those Mohnkuchen and things like that. So good.
So that's sort of,
Delicious.
and then up north, where they come from in Voivodina, a little place called Pivnica, and it's a little town.
Yeah.
And a lot of the wet dishes come from that area. So your goulashes, because you got Hungary and so on around bordering that area, so you got a lot of Hungarians as well. So all my cooking side of things, and then my uncle's a hairdresser, retired, or very, very semi-retired, and he loves cooking. So everyone of my, and then all their friends. So there was a Czech gent called Michael who lived in St Kilda, who handed me his knives down when he passed on, and I was just surrounded by them.
Yeah.
And then I grew up in Moorabbin, and my next door neighbours, it was predominantly Anglo-Australian in that area, but my next door neighbours were Greek. So I had lamb on spit every name's day and Easters, and it was for me it was just wonderful growing up.
Yeah.
So that's where it really started. It was either get into a trade and do something I like a lot, or I wasn't aspiring to become a good soccer player, as my dad was, and hopefully play for the Socceroos, and then one day for Man U. But that was the plan. But unfortunately, it got to the point where school was just about to finish for me in Year 10, and I had to make a decision, and cooking was my thing. So it was always looking like it was going to be the cooking side of things. Yeah. Which I love.
And how do you maintain that love? Because I just was speaking to a chef earlier, and he was talking about having to have a hip replacement, and and all these things, because it's
well, sorry, chef.
it's a hard job. It's a hard job, and it's stressful, and all of those things. It's a different world. Lots of chefs talk about having to, not being at family dues or giving up their evenings and weekends and so on. So for you to still say that you love it, what is it that you love about?
I think I love you got to be a chef that evolves.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm old school. So, mine's always been like, we were chefs, we did apprenticeships, and then you had your apprentices, and my thing is the adventure of educating not only others and people how to eat, how to taste, but these are all things I learned along the way as well.
Yeah.
I went to young apprentices that want to be chefs. I've got all the time in the world for, and I just like to see the look on people's faces, when it's coming out of the kitchen. Like these days, I do a lot of private cooking.
Yeah.
So I go to a private house, which I'm doing tomorrow in Ocean Grove, and it's only 6 people this time. Sometimes it's 22 people.
Right.
But I like going out there and I watch, whether I'm in the kitchen, I'll watch through the old swinging door window and just watch how, say, for instance, the Ligurian fish stew might walk through the door and then pass all the customers, and they're all looking up at you, and that puts a huge smile on my face, thinking, you haven't even tasted it yet, but yet you can smell that, and the look on your face as that's going, and then when you put it, I know what I'm like, when I see something, oh wow, it doesn't matter if it's a pub or a cafe or a fine dining restaurant, but I look at that and go, wow, that's unreal.
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing, and then the education part of it is, it gets me excited when someone's really interested. Like I said, I go to people's houses, and one of the first things you see is their cookbooks.
Yes.
And some of them are, your typical sort of Jack Oliver, but then some of them are, and I know that I've got a bunch of foodies here.
Yeah.
You can always convert. Like my youngest daughter doesn't eat all the things. She's not fussy. She just hasn't tried a few things in life. And slowly we'll build the taste buds up. I hated beer when I first started. Yeah, I love it,
That's right.
And red wine,
Yeah, that's right.
Red wine, I was like, oh, yeah, I know. But, it's an evolution. And we also have to learn ourselves as well. Learning every day. There's new things in the menu now, which sometimes I feel a little out of touch. I think, geez, what's that? So, get on Google or go through my books and, yeah, right, okay, there you go. It's very important. It's been a part of my life. This is the 37th year.
Wow.
So it's a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
And those aches and pains, you only feel them when you finish.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So you would have come up through the shouty chef and brigades kind of era, I guess starting off in hotels as well. Do you think things have changed in kitchens? I mean, you're working in people's home kitchens now, but
Yeah, look, things have changed. Some for the good and some for... I look at it this way. It's always been, and hope your guests don't find this wrong, but I don't like to beat around the bush.
Yeah.
It's a tough gig. It doesn't mean you've got to abuse people and bully people or any of that sort of thing. But it doesn't, in the peak of service, like we sit here now and watch these, in the peak of service, there's not always please and thank yous and little pats on the back. If I've got a $60 or $70 a kilo, whatever it is, Wagyu, which I don't use because of the pricing, but and someone burns it, and Joe's going to have to sit there and wait again in our high-end restaurant, or even a brasserie for that matter, I'm not going to be happy about it.
yeah.
So, but it's not going to be, come in and let's have a cuddle and don't worry, Joe understands that you burnt that very expensive piece of meat. It's not how things work. I always make it very clear from probably the way I've evolved, and also I make it very clear that there's not always, when someone comes in for an interview, there's not always, to be prepared. It's tough. It's not always please and thank you, but if you do a good job, I'll be the first to buy you a drink and say thanks, team. Because a good team you need. There's a lot of young chefs and cooks out there that, and I was one of them a long time ago, whack on that chef uniform with the black buttons, with their name on the thing there, and think everyone's got to bow down to them.
Yeah.
No, you earn your respect.
Yeah.
And the way you earn your respect is to be transparent, straight down the line, respect your staff, make your staff understand that sometimes they're not going to get a thank you or a please during service.
Yeah.
Because we have to get that out, and it's got to be... I remember working for a Michelin chef, Gary Rhodes, in London. If I can say this, I got bollocked a lot.
Yeah.
But it wasn't bullying, it was perfection. And that's why the guy had a Michelin star, and that's why in every restaurant he worked in. But that's why it makes you determined when you come home to create better, because people expect. But then, of course, TV, people see, MasterChef or whatever. Oh, look at that, and then sometimes this is what they expect all the time.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
standards are up. So that's how I sort of ran my brigades, whether they were small ones, large ones, it didn't matter. If I had 20 chefs, which I have in the past, I never bullied. I'd get upset. I would get to the point, when I came back from England, I'd get to the point where, if Ramsay was in the kitchen, I'd make him cry,
Yeah.
because simply because of the pressure, not because I was, an arsehole, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's a thing that people behind, on the other side of the fence, don't see it until it happens.
Yeah.
I have challenged people in the past where they've said, oh, can I come and work in your kitchen, and all that sort of thing. And they go through a training, and I actually do the training with them, because all my staff. And then, it might be the first service, just in a cafe, and they can't handle it. And that's that. And it sort of, in a way, proved my point.
Yeah.
Don't think it's that easy, because it is not. And with people opening up restaurants, they're popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
And then closing up within 18 months sometimes, some of it for different reasons, but a lot of it is because it's not what it seems.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so So you went to London. At what point did you decide that you wanted to go overseas?
Well, I wanted to travel, as I said, when I was 17.
Yeah.
It took me another 10 years to get there. It was I followed a partner over there, but it was a year before. It was 1996. I did a bit of a round the world trip. Never been overseas or anything. London, I was only there for a few days, and then 12 months later, all of a sudden, I'm back there. But this time I was on a working holiday visa, so it was probably the best thing that maybe if I did a bit earlier, it would have been better. But it was still on my last year of that. I think it's an increase. I'm not too sure how it works anymore. And I worked around a few places, a couple of 4-star hotels as well. I was hoping to, because I've got family in Europe, in the Balkans. I was hoping to either go to Vienna or perhaps Milan or something on the continent of Europe, but it just didn't work out. Didn't actually want to work in London because I came from a city. It didn't matter how big it is; it's still a city.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see England.
Yes. Okay.
You know, and so I went down south to Surrey and worked in a four-star, one rosette hotel down there called the Burford Ridge Hotel. And it's funny, 30 minutes down the road is the countryside for them. We're still in the city.
Yes.
And then did a bit of a trip, went to see the Rellos, and then came back. We're sort of stuck in London, and then Gary Rhodes came up, and sort of never looked back.
Yeah.
I just loved it. I just loved the experience. I didn't really know who he was at the time either. It was until I sat in the office waiting for the interview, looked up, and he's got 10 books, and it was everything that I always wanted to be. I never ever wanted it was never a job for me. It was always a career-based, always.
Yeah. So how long did you stay there?
2.5 years was the European trip. So, and the majority of that was in England and in London itself.
Yeah.
London itself, when you first get there, you find an agency in it.
Okay.
And they find you work, as most people here as well. But then, I don't like to just move around too much, so I wanted to settle in, and Rhodes was where I settled in.
Yeah.
For
and did you,
about a year.
how high did you go up through the ranks?
I got in there, I was a senior chef de partie. I had in charge of my a section, so I did all the garnishes and all the compliments, and learned to make the best pomme purée.
Wow.
It was unreal. I mean, that's how particular, know, and a lot of chefs will know what I'm talking about. There we, and everything, and timing. So every section, so the fish section, we had the fish section, hot larder, cold larder, pastry was on its own, and then next to me was the meat section, and we worked sort of together best. We would have usually 2 people, but there was too squishy. We started off with about 22 chefs, or 22 chefs and cooks in that kitchen when we first opened. It was called Rhodes in the Square in Pimlico. And by the time I was ready to go, because my time was, the visa was just about to go. Probably could have got sponsorship by Gary, but I decided no, I want to go home and I want to see a bit more of Europe as well, so I didn't want to be tied in. But by the time I left, it was 11. And that's how they sort of worked it. Get more in, the strongest stay. And
wow.
Yeah, and it's some of them just drop off. Maybe get the sack or it's as you said earlier, it's a tough gig, and once you get to that Michelin-y side of things, it's hard enough in a big bistro where they're doing 400 covers, which I've done quite it, and you've got 10 staff all in a row there, and that's a high pressure in that sense. But then in that fine dining or super fine dining, it's different. But it opened my eyes. That's where I got educated how to actually taste food properly.
Yeah.
After being a chef 10 years already, no one taught me how to actually taste food. So.
And what does that mean? Does that mean distinguishing different elements and then being aware of, I guess, what goes together, or what does that mean?
It is. It's just basically my christening to that was one of in his other restaurant where I was doing. He did a bit of induction training, and his chef there, Wayne, he had the stuffed pig strop with the pomme purée and a glaze. I never tasted it. I mean, I come from Europe and I've tasted offal and all sorts of. But anyway, he said he ripped into it, got this fork, massive fork, and I, quite honestly, I thought I was taking a piss. Are you kidding me or what, mate? He said, shove that in your mouth. I looked at him and I said, I might have a big head, but I can't. Yeah, come on in, go on. And so I did, and I was just like when you have too much food in your mouth, and you're sort of struggling to. He said, swirl it around.
Yeah, right.
So just like when we taste wine with the back of your tongues, and I started tasting the salts, the sugars, like natural sugars. It's basically breaking down in your mouth the elements and why, and that's I've adopted that ever since. With everybody. My youngest daughter, first thing she does, salt. I said, you're going to be like your grandma, all she does is put salt in it. I said, taste it first. Then you want to season, then season. Me and a couple of mates, I've got a chef friend of mine who's a chef in Berlin, and we always said, salt is your friend, but it's not a flavour, it's an enhancer. So you've got to be real careful how you put these sort of things together.
One of my chef friends from New Zealand always said to me, salt at the base, and that way it enhances it rather than makes it salty. So putting the salt in with when you first start
you build it up.
Yeah.
It's like I was saying about the pomme purée, the mashed potato, or the humble spud. We used to do an emulsion. Well, I still do it, but it's an emulsion of butter, cream, and milk. You warm it up. And it's all done hot, otherwise you get slumpy or whatever. And a little bit of nutmeg in there. Fresh is best, but if you don't, then a bit of nutmeg powder. It just gives it. And then as we put the already mashed potato in to get it even fluffier, you add your emulsion, and every time you add the liquid, you add a bit of a seasoning. But you then fold it in and then taste and then layer it up. By the time it gets to the top, as you said, you've got probably the perfect mash. And that's how I was taught, was at the base.
Yeah.
If I'm doing a Napoli sauce, onions, everything goes in. I started off at the base.
Yes.
And then you add it as you need later on.
Yeah.
To me, that's the way it is. Same with steaks. Some people in recent times, each to their own, but the way I was taught, season first, then put it on the grill.
Yeah.
A lot of people season it afterwards. I don't see how, you can't get in there, can't penetrate to break things down and to enhance flavours. The only thing I don't use is cooking salt because it's too fine.
Okay.
It's hard to gauge sometimes. It's very fine. It's like icing sugar, isn't it? It's sort of. You can get a teaspoon of icing sugar and a teaspoon of regular sugar, and the icing sugar one's always going to be sweeter because it's so refined.
I see.
So salts, whether it's from the Himalayas or whether it's straight from Corio Bay over here, it was clean enough because there used to be salt pans down here. They don't use them anymore, but they used to mine salt down here. There's no salt. In my opinion, they've got that charcoal salt now. They've got this. That's only really for looks. Once it's in there and once it's cooked, like I said, I was brought up through peasant-style cooking in my childhood, and there was no such thing. It was just salt. Whether it's table salt or whether it was cooking salt. My mum used to use a lot of cooking salt, but as I grew up, it was just salt. 10-kilo bags that came in, and Gary Rhodes, we didn't use any Michelin star. We didn't use this salt or that salt. We used just salt. So it just depends on how you use it. You know, salt is an important part of our diets. So pepper, you know, it's dry, it's white. You know, I mean, I like using pink peppercorns in certain things, depending on how strong, because it's sweet.
Yeah.
I mean, all the foreshore here is covered in peppercorn trees, which just help yourself.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, the green ones are a little bit stronger, which I would use in a proper French style. If I do pepper sauce, I like doing it properly.
Yeah.
And then so it doesn't matter where you're getting it from. It's pepper's pepper. You know,
fascinating.
Our supermarket's got all that.
Okay. Well, that's right. So I won't beat myself up about my.
No. Don't stress. No.
So then, did I see you also worked in Italy?
No, I didn't actually. No, I didn't work. No, I haven't worked in Italy. I have done some cooking in the Balkans, though. Okay. With family.
Yes.
Which again is very grassroots.
Yeah.
Which I love. Actually, if I can find it, I'll show you the videos of what they cooked there. My dad's side of the family originate from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I'm non-practicing, but they're the Muslim side of the family, the Bosnian side. So a lot of their cooking comes from the Ottoman Empire, the Turks, just like a lot of that area. I mean, the Turks, the Ottomans ruled that area for 600 years.
Yes.
You know, so there's a lot of big influences, and from Dad's side in particular, that's where Turkish coffee, baklava. Recently I made a nice macadamia nut baklava with a Turkish coffee ice cream. So I've just turned, I've used Australian ingredients, so macadamias, into a baklava, and just turned a Turkish coffee into a nice ice cream instead of baklava and drinking the coffee, eating it. So
that's great.
Yeah, so that's where those influences come from. And they also use a thing called, like in Turkey, it's called a sash. So it's a container, quite flat. It's got a lid. You put it straight on charcoal, and then you put charcoal on top of it. So it's like a little oven.
Okay.
And that's where you make your burek and what we call pita, and you can do slow cooking. That part of it was really interesting for me. So didn't go there commercially to do any work, but just, as I said, learning every day. And it was just getting to my grassroots. Mum's side sort of covered. Dad's side never really got covered, unfortunately.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And I saw on your Instagram that you'd visited the town, the ruins of where your name comes from.
Oh, yeah. Well, my name's Basich.
Yeah.
I have changed it. In the Balkans, the C usually has an accent, which is a ch. And when I got married, which I'm not anymore, but I changed it to just an H on the end of it, just to make life a little easier all around. But it's pronounced Basich.
Oh, yeah.
And the little where my actual grassroots from Dad comes from is called Basici Sela, which is Basich village. And it's, unfortunately, because of the war and everything else, a lot of it was, as you probably saw, a lot of it was ruined. It was my first time. It was the first time I did go over there. It was only a year or so, or just after the actual war, and that area there is quite a bit of a stronghold for what were the bad guys.
Yeah.
And but anyway, I finally got there, and it would have been good to see it in its heyday. Now it's only got about 30 people that live there, and they've got newer style of houses. But it was interesting to see that there was a man there who was milking the cows, and he said, "Right, your uncle lived there, and the school was there, and I would have loved to have just been able to go there when it was all happening properly." And they were living in these. It's like 1,500 years old. That building.
Isn't amazing?
Which is amazing, and it was all ruins.
Absolutely.
These are one thing, so anyway.
But isn't it interesting when you go back, because I'm first generation New Zealand, but my parents were their families were from Scotland and England,
Yeah.
and being in Scotland, but having never lived there or whatever, but just feeling like I came from there, like I just that unusual sense of belonging you get where it's kind of like, I don't really know anything about this country apart from my parents are born here, and then just there's so much history there. I mean, obviously there's a different kind of history here that goes back many centuries and hundreds of thousands of years, but it is interesting once you get put on those places where your family come from and you feel something. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, Joe, it is. The very, very first, I mean, I went back to where my mum was born and my mum and uncle were born, and I've actually, but that was the first time. Things have changed now. I didn't really get to, we only spent a few hours there this time round, and the Slovaks are a different people. They're really kind and friendly, happy people, and of course great cooks. But I got to spend a little bit of time in the actual house where my mum and my uncle were born and grew up in. And they give you go in there, and everywhere that you go, they give you a little glass of rakia, which is, the Balkan moonshine, which again comes from the Turks. So you said, "Oh, hello, okay." And then I was at my cousin's farm, which I visited this time as well, and it was a Sunday. I remember, and my grandma always used to wear a little shawl, and everyone rides not everyone, but most people ride a bike. And they're all in their dresses, and they're all sort of puffy dresses. And I remember back, this is 98, I think it was. And I remember church had just finished, and they're all riding their bikes, and these little grannies. And it was really strange, and my heart started. I was home, but this is mum's side of the home that I was with. This time round, I didn't feel as much with where Dad came from, because it's in a bit of an area which is, I won't get into the politics, which is sort of still a bit dicey. But then in Montenegro, where the family all live, a town city called Tivat, not far from Kotor, and all these beautiful, I love Montenegro. Got back from there last September, and that made me, even though it wasn't in the area where Dad was born, because they all sort of lived together, and I felt I actually was at home. I really miss it. I felt that I really belonged, and I wanted to take my daughters as well to have a look, because my auntie is still alive, and my uncle's 94 years old and still kicking on. Great lives, because they've had wars and everything, they don't stress. They're laid back. The only stress you've got is trying to get into Kotor with all the tourist cars going through the tunnel of, they eat well, and they make, and nearly everything is off the land as well, which is something that I love. I'm born in Pavilion, but I'm a Melbourne boy. But I've worked in regions because I'm interested in what comes off the land.
Yes.
I love what comes off the land, because living in Moorabbin, we used to have a backyard, a big veggie garden in the backyard. So we had chooks and all sorts of things as well. So I love that part. I love my auntie when she was stronger back then, and they'd have a cow, and the cow was milked. So we had fresh milk, untouched. It was so rich. Eggs were 100% free range, not 15-minute free range. They'd make feta cheese, a type of feta cheese there. Oh my goodness, awesome. I never not tasted foods like that. It was fantastic. And then my cousin, he's got basically a little mini winery. I'm not a big fan of homemade wines. In his shed, in a room where he's got rakia, and he makes red wine out of a French variety grape, and I'll tell you, it's as good as any Merlot I've ever tasted.
Wow.
In my opinion, you know.
Yeah.
I had fun. Let's put it that way. So, yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. Home grassroots are really important. You know,
Yes.
I know a lot of chefs that have come up through the grassroots, still go to college and do all that. Who I think are probably the best. You know. So.
And how long have you been doing the private chef thing?
I wish I knew about it 20 years ago. The private chef thing I've been doing since about 2011, so just I was doing it sort of on and off, in between head chefing and exec chefing here and there, and in recent times it's gone fully with it, and it started in Melbourne, and what it is, I've got private dining, so you've got the fine dining, so we bring that to you, bring a fine dining restaurant to you. So I've been doing it for 10, 11, 12 years, thereabouts. It's been great. I tell you, the stressful part is shopping, getting there, and that's it.
Do you take your own cooking tools?
Yeah, I always do. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the deal is there. The guest or the client will order off your menu, and then they set up the tables. So I'll just go with that now. Thanks, mate. They set up the tables, and then we come in with the produce. Most of it's raw produce, so it's actually cooked there.
Yeah.
Some of it you can't physically. It's got to be prepared. Bring it in, and usually you've got a pretty good kitchen to work out of.
Yeah.
And then serve it. And then I mean, some people are really interested. Other people aren't so interested. They've got their friends there, so they're chatting away, and it's a birthday or whatever it might be. And it's part of the entertainment and educating part. I'll make it open, and I'll introduce each course, and they'll ask me where did it come from, and I'll let them know where things come from, and they're really intrigued because that part of the education too. Because you go to a supermarket, it says Australian lamb and whatever, but you don't really know exactly where it comes from.
Yeah.
So mind you, I learned that New Zealand has the best lamb in the world.
That's right.
No offence. Because you guys use Texel lambs and sheep and so on. It's one of the best. So it's got a nice little amount of fat in it and everything else.
Yeah,
so,
right. I'm pretty sure we export most of that.
yeah, well, I did see it in
the
freezers in London. Yeah, New Zealand lamb. It's Safeway, I think it was over there. So you basically you get in there, and I love entertaining. I love being in front of it and just not showing off, but I just like, and then sometimes they have kids as well, and the kids are intrigued, and you get to see this guy come in with a chef uniform and his waiter. Sometimes if I don't need a waiter, I do it all on my own. And the last two plates I take out as well, and I do a welcoming thing, and I say, hey, and I'm open a door, and if you want to ask questions, ask questions. I'll answer them to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I love it.
Yeah, sounds good. I worked for a French chef when I was finishing off my doctorate, so a long time ago in Christchurch. And I would go into these fancy houses, and because it was a French chef as well, all the people would be all, and he said to me, now Joe, they basically think I'm God because I'm a French chef, and they'll be quite rude to you, and that's exactly what happened. And then this one woman said to me, oh dear, do you not think of doing anything more than being a waitress? And I was like, whatever. It's so funny.
Oh, yeah.
But that was fascinating, and it was, it's a lovely thing to bring fine dining into someone's home. I think it's such a treat for people to have that in their comfortable surroundings, but top quality food. So nice.
Yeah, that's one thing that I get a lot of comments on, where some people, however, because obviously they cook a lot, and they're like, I don't know what to do with myself,
Yeah.
I said, no, all you got to do is just relax. So I did one for New Year's Eve in Torquay, actually. And do you want me to carry plates? You know, no, because I did it myself. There's only, I think it was 6 or 7 of them.
Yeah.
And I said, no, you just relax and let me take care of things for you, no problems. And I had the little kiddies, and the kiddies were, and I had these pancakes as a dessert. So there was extra. I said, here's some pancakes for the kids as well. I don't want. It's very laid back. It's not stuffy. I mean, I've been to some fine dining restaurants myself where I think, yeah, food was good, but service is really stuffy. Because sometimes I've noticed, especially in the 90s, I remember in the early 2000s, some of these boys and girls that work in there think, I work for, I don't know, it's just pulling a view to mine and I'm the bee's knees. Well, you're not.
Yeah.
You know, don't sit there pretending you are, because you're not. You know, there's waiters and... See, one thing I also learned when it came to the waiting staff that opened my eyes up when I was in Europe. When I was at the Bertha Bridge Hotel, for instance, my maitre d' was French, and we had another, when he was off, another maitre d' who was Italian. But these are career floor staff, and it's a huge difference. This day and age, unfortunately, like if I take the waiting staff with me, I train them up. Even if it's my daughter, she's only very young, and she's getting better at things. She did her first fine dining the other day with another lady, and she's doing terrific. She's got to learn to carry 3 plates now, and then she's off. Yeah. You know, I think it's up to the owner/managers to be able to train people. A lot of people these days just get thrown in. Oh, and this is what you do, and this, you know, and that's that. We're missing a bit. We used to be really good in customer service. I think we're lacking in it a fair bit. We were one of the Australia and New Zealand down under. We were some of the top in that service. Yeah. I've got to say, when I was in Europe, though, that the French and Italians, when I was there, this is the late 90s, was mind-boggling. So unreal, you know. And communications, even when I went off my tree at them every now and then, you know, we sat down. We would, back then I used to smoke, have a cigarette and a glass of wine, and talk about the night and where we can improve, and so on and so forth. It was really, really good. And I adapted that when I came back as well in the kitchens that I ran. So, yeah.
So with all your experience in mind, what would your advice be to a young person starting out as a chef?
It would have been an easy question a long time ago, but it's become a hard question now.
Okay.
It's look at if your heart's in it, it's something you really want to do, then go for it. But you have to learn to look beyond. You know, there's a lot of TV chefs and all this sort of thing. You got to look beyond that. It's not, that's TV. Everything's prepared. You know, I've been on TV, so I know how it works. So everything's prepared. So when you get into the real kitchen, as I said, you get someone like myself, you will be educated, you'll be taught. So you have to be patient. You're going to have to put up with a lot of rubbish, a lot of shit. You won't always sit there and don't expect to go and cook steaks. You know, learn from basically the bottom. Doesn't mean you've got to be a kitchen hand. I wasn't a kitchen hand when I started. But I was peeling carrots and peeling potatoes and saying yes, chef, and you know, start at the bottom and work your way up. You get to the top right away, it's a harder fall. Yeah. So work hard, be patient, start your apprenticeship, do an apprenticeship, because you go through college, just like a driving lesson. You can't just get behind a wheel and think you know the road rules, because you don't. And stick at it, because it can take you places. Money-wise, it's a lot better than what it was back in my day. A lot better. Back in my day, if I was getting for a first year apprentice these days, or a second year, you know, I would have been driving a Mercedes-Benz now, you know. Yeah. So it's long hours. Be wary though, also, you know, because a lot of people out there do take the wee-wees out of you every now and then. And when it comes to that abusive sounding, try to identify that too, because there's a fine line between bullying and that. And work with a chef that is passionate. They've got to be passionate. If you don't sense that in your gut, try somewhere else.
Yeah.
But once you find the right place, stick at it, because it will take your places seriously. It's taken me pretty much, well, when I say around the world, it's taken me to Europe, and if I wanted to go anywhere else, I would.
Yeah.
And even now at my age, I'm an old bugger now, so, you know, I could go to the Balkans there and buy a guest house and do my private dining in the guest house on the Adriatic Sea, somewhere, you know, or in Sardinia on the Mediterranean. So, stick at it, because it can take you a long way.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Eddie. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Conversation with a Chef with Eddie Basich. If you liked what you heard, you can check out all the goodness on Instagram at flirtatiousfood19. And if you'd like to hear more stories from other chefs, I'm on Instagram at Conversation with a Chef. You can read the chat and become a subscriber at www.conversationwithachef.com. And I would love it if you told a friend about my chats. You can follow me on Apple and Spotify podcasts, as well as Amazon podcasts and Audible. And once again, thanks so much for listening, and have a great day. Bon appetit.